The only thing keeping me awake at 9 p.m. was the hot, metallic dust smell coming off the RE2 Burmese chots. The basement studio in the film department always carried that signature scent, a cocktail of aging gear, film developing chemicals, and fourth-year student burnout. I was tweaking a 3-point lighting setup for a technical assignment. In theory, it's simple. In reality, getting a perfect fall-off shadow across a plastic mannequin face is pure torture. I needed something alive, something with real skin texture so I could nail the exposure. Hey, is anybody even in here? I swear this campus map was drawn by someone with astigmatism. A loud, unnecessarily energetic voice sliced through the studio silence. I didn't look up from the Blackmagic's viewfinder. Through the 50 millimeters, I watched a figure stride straight into the key light. Adrian Rivera. Everyone at this art school knew the drama queen king of the acting department. Ripped denim jacket, thick script binder clutched like a weapon, face looking like he'd just stepped off a magazine shoot even though we were in a literal dungeon. "Where's rehearsal room B12? I've got call time at 9:15, he asked, flashing that blinding grin at me. The smile was so bright it threw off the white balance I just locked in. "Wrong room," I said flatly, still adjusting focus. "B12's at the end of the left corridor." Adrian didn't leave. He drifted closer, peering at my rig with open curiosity. "Oh, you're the guy who's always glued to a camera, right? Blake? I heard you can make a corpse look like a supermodel just by moving a light." "Stand still," I ordered, voice dry as sandpaper. He froze, thick brows shooting up. "Excuse me?" "Step onto the X mark on the floor. Hold that exact face. No acting, no smiling, no talking." Maybe it was the sheer rudeness that stunned him, or maybe it was pure actor instinct craving a lens, but Adrian obeyed. He planted himself exactly where I wanted. Through the viewfinder, under the harsh tungsten, his bone structure looked brutal and honest. High cheekbones, straight nose, the perfect test subject for rule of thirds placement. I tilted the frame until his eyes sat right on the upper right intersection point. "So, is this the energy you're looking for?" he murmured, trying to layer on what he clearly thought was a profound expression. "Shut up, Rivera. One more word and your breathing will shake the frame." I eased the aperture ring. The backlight spilled across his shoulders, carving him out of the solid black backdrop. For a second I forgot he was an annoying human. Through the lens he was just shapes, highlights, shadows, warm skin tones. "Done," I said after 5 minutes of dead silence. I killed the lights. The studio dropped back into dimness. Adrian blinked hard, adjusting to the dark. "That's it? No praise? No notes on my performance? I'm not shooting a movie. I'm metering," I said, already unplugging cables. "And you're now 10 minutes late for your scene study." He stared at me, that signature megawatt smile faltering like he was trying to decide whether I was a weirdo or just an asshole. Finally he shrugged, scooped up his script. "You're strange as hell, Blake. But if you ever need a real face so your assignment doesn't look like a low-budget horror flick, hit me up. Free of charge, or trade for a latte." He walked out, leaving a cloud of citrus bergamot cologne that overpowered the hot gear smell. I stayed behind, alone, staring at the monitor still holding the last frame of him. I opened my tech notebook and jotted, Subject 1. Strong facial structure. High contrast. Requires tight control on hard sources to prevent highlight clipping. I didn't write his name. In my world, people are just technical specs. But for the first time this semester, I realized I'd unconsciously captured way more footage than a simple lighting exercise required. My golden rule for surviving 4 years of art school in New York: avoid house parties at all costs. They're everything I hate. Distorted audio blasting from cheap speakers, spilled Bud Light soaking the floorboards, people yelling passion for the craft in your face while reeking of mango vape. But tonight I had no choice. Marcus, the rich kid student director I was trying to sweet-talk into lending me his cook primes for my thesis, texted, "Come to my place. We'll talk project." Marcus's loft was in Bushwick. The second I walked in, The heat and humidity fogged my lens instantly. I backed into a dark corner by the fridge, clutching a red Solo cup of what I hoped was just soda, scanning the room like I was hunting critical focus. Then I saw him. Adrian Rivera wasn't lurking in a corner like me. He was center stage in a circle of at least 7 people, arms waving like he was reenacting a Shakespeare monologue. Under the cheap red-purple LED strips taped to the ceiling, he looked like digital noise on damaged film stock. Too bright, too chaotic, completely uncontainable. I swear to God, that casting director stared at me like I just landed from another planet because I don't sound Midwest native enough. Adrian threw his head back in theatrical laughter. The group laughed along, 80% fake easy. He glanced toward the kitchen and froze when our eyes met. The public performance grin didn't disappear. It just shifted into something more curious. He slipped through the crowd and headed straight for me. "Hey, camera runs on rice," he called, clearly proud of the dumb nickname he'd just invented. "You come to parties? I thought you only ran on electricity and SD cards." "I'm here for work," I said, looking past his shoulder for Marcus. "Come on, Blake. Loosen up. You're killing the vibe in this corner." He leaned against the fridge right beside me, close enough that I could smell the morning citrus cologne now mixed with sweat and a little tequila. I noticed something. His fingers were tapping the Solo cup in fast, uneven rhythm, nothing like the relaxed posture on his face. "You're acting," I said flat. Adrian's brows lifted. "What? I'm just telling a funny story." "No, you're playing happiest guy at the party. But your pupils are blown and you keep glancing at the door every time someone walks in. Waiting for a casting call? Or just terrified that if you stop talking everyone will realize you're bored out of your mind?" His smile locked. For 1 second the noise around us vanished. He looked straight into my eyes, no filter, no performance. Just sharp surprise and a flicker of anger. "You think you know everything, huh? Just because you hold a camera doesn't mean you can read someone else's script," he said, voice dropping, losing the golden boy lilt. "I don't need to read the script. I just look at what's actually in the frame." Right then a drunk guy stumbled past and slammed into Adrian's shoulder, splashing beer across the denim jacket. Adrian muttered a curse under his breath. I handed him the stack of greasy napkins I'd grabbed from the counter. He snatched them, wiping and grumbling. "Fuck, I borrowed this jacket." "Balcony?" I said, not even sure why I was suddenly rescuing this loudmouth from the crowd. "It's too loud in here to hear yourself screaming inside." Adrian gave me a strange look, then nodded once. We pushed through grinding bodies to the narrow iron balcony overlooking the elevated train tracks. New York's cold wind hit like a slap, cutting through the party heat. Adrian leaned on the railing, staring down at the long red taillight trails, like long exposure streaks on asphalt. "Do you ever turn off the analysis mode, Ethan?" he asked, finally using my real name. "No," I answered honestly. "It's how I see the world." "That sounds exhausting," he sighed, breath fogging white. "But thanks for the napkins." I didn't reply. I just stood there watching city lights bounce off the metal railing. In the rare quiet, Adrian looked more like a real person than a lighting subject. Logic told me to go find Marcus right now, but my hand drifted to the lens cap anyway. Some selfish, ruthless artist part of me wanted to capture Adrian Rivera standing still in New York, when no one else was watching. 3 days after the party, I was buried in the darkest corner of Bob's library, hunched over my ancient laptop. The screen showed a waveform choked with noise. I was so tired the pixels seemed to dance across my retinas. Art school in America isn't the sun-dappled montage you see in movies. It's student loan panic, double shifts at overpriced coffee shops until your feet bleed, and the constant dread that you'll wash out before the diploma ever shows up. A shadow fell across my table. I didn't need to look up. The citrus bergamot hit me first. "Listen, Blake. I've been thinking about what you said on the balcony." Adrian dropped into the chair across from me without asking. He looked paler than usual, no concealer hiding the dark circles. On the table he set a venti latte, probably the reason he'd skipped lunch. You said I was performing, he went on, voice low to avoid the librarian's glare. Yeah, I perform. I have to, because this city doesn't cast guys who look like they're falling apart. But to land anything decent, I need a pro showreel, not shaky iPhone footage. I dragged my eyes off the waveform and landed on the coffee. And you want me to shoot it? I know you need an actor for your urban isolation thesis piece. I read the treatment you posted on the department board. It's dry, technical, but it's got soul. You've got the camera, the eye. I've got the face and the desperation. He pulled a napkin from his pocket, smoothed it flat, and started scribbling with a ballpoint. Here's the deal. I model for you whenever you need. No hour limit. No whining about rain or hunger or waiting for golden hour. In return, you cut me a 3-minute showreel. Something that makes a agent pause mid-scroll and go, "Who the hell is this guy?" I stared at the napkin. His handwriting was as dramatic as he was big loops, sharp angles. I don't work for free, Rivera. Gear needs maintenance. My editing time isn't cheap, I said, even though right now I had 0 actors lined up. I know. He met my eyes. No sparkle, no party boy charm, just raw urgency. So I'll cover your coffee for the whole semester. And I'll haul your heavy-ass gear to every location. You save assistant rates. I stayed quiet. Logically, it was a steal. A willing, camera-ready actor with great bone structure who'd work for nothing? In New York, that was unicorn-level rare. Why me? I asked. Half the film kids here would jump to shoot you just to get close to the acting department's golden boy. Adrian gave a tired, real smile, the first one I believed. Because they'd shoot the version I want them to see. You shoot the version that actually exists. I hate it, but I need it if I'm gonna get better. I took the pen, signed Ethan Blake in the corner of the wrinkled napkin. My rules are simple, I said, pulling the latte toward me like a contract sealed. On set, I'm in charge. You're the subject. No arguing, no improvising, and absolutely no drama queen faces that wreck my white balance. Clear? He snapped a mock salute, mischief flickering back. Crystal, Mr. Director of Photography. So when do we start exploiting each other? 5 a.m. tomorrow. Brooklyn Bridge. Dawn light is the only thing that might save your reel. I turned back to the screen, pretending I hadn't just signed a deal with chaos incarnate. Adrian walked off light-footed. I stared at the napkin, the only proof I'd let a walking variable crash into my carefully controlled frame. 4:30 a.m. New York was still wrapped in pre-dawn gunmetal blue. Wind off the East River sliced across the bridge, carrying salt and cold that went straight to the bone. Adrian stood there shivering in a thin jacket, trying to pat on more foundation under his phone's flash. Put it away, I rasped, voice rough from no sleep while I balanced the gimbal. What, Blake? I look like a drowned corpse right now. On camera, I'll look like I floated out of the river. I stopped, stepped in close enough to see the goosebumps rising on his arms. Without thinking, I reached up and roughly swiped my thumb across his cheek, smearing the caked powder away. I told you, I want truth. No Broadway pancake makeup in my frame. I need this exhaustion, this shaking. That's New York. He stared at me, eyes red from the wind. No argument. He just pulled out a wet wipe and scrubbed his face clean. When the makeup came off, the shadows under his eyes deepened. A couple small breakouts showed, thinner, more fragile. And fuck, it was beautiful in a way no filter could touch. Action, I said, stepping back behind the lens. Scene 1. A man the city is swallowing whole, but he keeps breathing. No dialogue, just walking. Eyes. Adrian drew a long breath. When I rolled, the loudmouth actor vanished. He started walking the wooden planks, shoulders slightly slumped, hands jammed deep in pockets. He didn't look at camera. He looked at nothing, at the Manhattan skyline slowly bleeding through the fog. Through the 85 millimeters, everything else dissolved. Just him. Blue hour light carved sad, heartbreaking planes across his face. Cut, I called after 5 minutes. He stopped, instantly curling in on himself against the cold. What? Was it that bad? You're acting again, I snapped, powering down. You're trying to look sad. You're puppeteering your face so I see suffering. Stop performing. Stop giving me anything. Just think about your student loans. Think about failing this reel and ending up back in Ohio waiting tables forever. His face changed. The forced half-smile dropped completely. He stood frozen on the bridge, breath steaming white. Heavy silence settled between us. Roll again, he said, voice cracked. This time I didn't call action. He just walked. No performance left. Just a lost soul moving through the giant steel skeleton of the bridge. When he stopped, leaned his forehead against a cable and stared down at the black water, a single tear slipped free. Wind tore it sideways before it could fall far. I didn't cut. I kept rolling until sunrise hit, gilding the messy strands of hair around his face. Done, I said, softer than I meant to. He stayed there a long beat before turning. He looked like someone who'd just come out of surgery with no anesthesia. You're a cruel bastard, Blake, he said, still trembling. You make people strip everything bare. That's the only way to get a beautiful frame, I answered, breaking down the tripod, avoiding his eyes. Truth was, my pulse had stuttered when that tear caught the lens. It wasn't scripted. It was an emotional artifact I didn't know how to grade out. Adrian walked over, hefted the heavy tripod bag like he'd promised. Breakfast, he muttered. You owe me a big greasy one after exploiting my body and soul in this godforsaken weather. We walked to a cheap diner in Dumbo. Under the new gold sunrise, he rambled about how badly he wanted over-easy eggs. But I knew under that denim what we'd captured on the card was going to change the math. I caught an Adrian Rivera no one else ever saw. And that was a massive problem for the logic I lived by. Edit Bay 204 smelled like burnt coffee and overheating Dell Towers. Windowless box, lit only by the twin 27-inch monitors throwing blue-gray ghost light on my face. I'd been here 8 hours. Pixels were starting to smear. Door banged open. Adrian walked in carrying 2 Wendy's bags, still buzzing even after a bakery closing shift. Hey, cyborg, I brought fuel, he said, dumping the food and dragging a chair right up next to mine. Show me the masterpiece. I hit spacebar without a word. The Brooklyn Bridge footage filled the screen. In the dark room, his face looked more real than the living version sitting inches away. I'd spent 3 hours just color grading that sequence, pulling back the cold dawn cyan, warming the midtones so his natural skin glowed through. He went quiet, stared at the version of himself shivering, unmade up. When the tear rolled and I held on the extreme close-up, I heard his breathing turn thick beside me. Is that me? He whispered. No theatrics left. That's what the lens saw, I said, eyes on the scopes. You've got killer structure for light. If you stopped performing so hard, you'd be a great actor. He swiveled his chair so he faced me instead of the monitor. Why that angle? Feels like you peeled me open. I look pathetic. Not pathetic. I finally looked at him. Human. American audiences don't want polished perfection anymore. They want broken. And you? I paused, throat tight. You break beautifully. He laughed short, sad. Leaned closer to study the color curves on my second screen. Ethan, he said, using my name again, soft. Have you ever been in front of the lens? You're always controlling, always in shadow, watching everyone else. Don't you get lonely? The camera is how I talk to the world, I said. His closeness made it hard to pull air. It's safe. It has rules. Too dark? Bump ISO. Soft? Pull focus. Everything fixable. His hand lifted. I thought he'd touch the screen, but his fingers brushed the back of my hand on the mouse instead. A small current shot up my spine. Not a glitch. A variable my algorithms couldn't solve. What about feelings? He asked quietly. How do you color grade those? He looked at me with the same eyes I'd studied through glass for a week. But now nothing separated us. Monitor light carved deep shadows under his lashes. I froze. Every logical circuit screamed. Back off. Keep editing. Maintain the line between DP and talent. My body ignored the order. I don't know, I admitted, barely audible. He didn't pull away, just smiled, not for an audience, not for camera, just for this moment. Then stop analyzing. Just feel it. Right then, the old building's power flickered. The tower gave a dying whine. Both screens snapped to black. Total dark. No waveforms. No histograms. Just my heartbeat thudding loud in my ears and Adrian's breath warm against my cheek. The frame lines were gone. And I knew this reel was never going to finish the way I'd planned.